Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And man, are we talking about hypocrisy today? We gotta cover a topic that we haven't spoken about for a really long time. Hashtag #MeToo. Just when you think the organization that claims to be fighting for women could not lose more credibility, well, they prove you wrong and sink beneath the depths of depravity to such an incredible extent it's absolutely unbelievable. The double standards when it comes to the #MeToo organization in terms of protecting Democrats, and more specifically Democrat thought leaders and Democrat politicians, is despicable. Joe Biden himself probably being the greatest example of that. Well, it's happening again, and this time with Hollywood's favorite governor, Andrew Cuomo. Yep, the famous nipple ring Cuomo brother allegedly is being accused of harassing one of his staffers for years. Not just once or twice, but for years. And the question is, where's the outrage? Where are the feminist leaders? Where's the hashtag #MeToo movement and their outrage? Well, you guessed it. It's nowhere to be found. #MeToo is a political movement to attack and slander anyone on the right. It was used to stop Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing. That's what it was about. It was about wielding the power that #MeToo has and using it as a political cudgel, something we've seen from left-wing activism and left-wing rhetoric and left-wing strategies for years now. And so we got a bunch of stories to cover today, and frankly, I'm probably just gonna rant a whole lot about liberal hypocrisy. Not exactly something new, but I think this video maybe be a little bit more hard-hitting. But now before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, quarantined from non-subscribed viewers, so make sure that you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, and share the video as much as possible so we can counteract YouTube suppression. Now with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright guys, so I wasn't kidding, I wasn't joking when I told you there's a serious allegation targeting Andrew Cuomo. Now you might not have known about it because, well, it's just not making the rounds, and the media just doesn't seem to care because it's a Democrat, and we know they didn't take the same approach when it came to Roy Moore. But the key word that I want to use here is credible accusation. Credible. And the reason I want to use that word is because the media is the one who pushed that in the first place. Claiming everything that's ever targeted the president has always been credible from a credible anonymous source or from a credible source, a credible accusation. But interestingly enough, when it targeted Joe Biden, they kept saying there's no credibility to this source. It's been debunked. But you might see a trend here. You might see a trend with powerful Democrat leaders and what goes on behind closed doors in their office space. Former Cuomo staffer says the New York governor, I have to blur out this word, harassed her for years. And this is somebody who worked right alongside Cuomo for a long time. Her name is Lindsay Boylan, and here's her Twitter thread. My first experience of workplace was when my mom got her first real office job after graduating from college when I was in high school. She was so excited to be taken, quote, seriously. Her boss isolated her and kissed her. She never had that type of a job again. It was then how I learned how hard it is for women, how hard this world can be for us when we are trying to be taken seriously and help our communities, how easily jerks can destroy the lives of women. And I promised myself I would never let any of those kind of guys win. I would work hard my whole life and put myself in positions of power to change things, to end the violence and corruption, give voice to the voiceless. I am not stopping. I refuse. I will never give up. She then goes on to say, yes, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, censored word, harassed me for years. Many saw it and watched. I could never anticipate what to expect. Would I be grilled on my work, which was very good, or harassed about my looks? Or would it be both in the same conversation? This was the way for years. Not knowing what to expect was the most upsetting part, aside from knowing that no one would do a damn thing even when they saw it. No one. And I know that I am not the only woman. I'm angry to be put in this situation at all, that because I am a woman I can work hard my whole life to better myself and help others, and yet still fall victim as countless women over generations have, mostly silently. I hate that some men, like New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, abuse their power. Well, there you have it, folks. This is somebody who worked right next to Andrew Cuomo for years, and this is her claim. You probably didn't even hear the story because, of course, why would you? Andrew Cuomo is the poster child of Democrat leaders. They were even planning on running him for president to replace Joe Biden before Joe won the nomination process. They gave the guy an Emmy, for Pete's sakes. Not only did they nominate him, but they actually gave it to him. They awarded it to him, regardless of the fact that he's the Grim Reaper of New York retirement homes. But there's a trend, friends, there's a serious trend, and it always seems to be massive projection from the Democrats' side. You know, I've mentioned this a million times. Democrat rhetoric, a lot of the things that they campaign on and talk about, a lot of the activists, what they're complaining of are these social dilemmas and social qualms within Democrat environments and Democrat cities. Just think about it. Poverty, wealth inequality, high crime, racial insensitivity all seem to be more prevalent in Democrat areas than anywhere else. Police violence, let's add one more. But they always project it onto Republicanism somehow. And Me Too is the exact same thing. Pointing fingers, pointing fingers, pointing fingers. But it's always happening on their side. And they never really do anything about it. Alyssa Milano, during the early days of the election, is a prime example of exactly that. When Tara Reid comes out with a very credible allegation that was corroborated by one of her friends at the time, Alyssa Milano threw Me Too and Tara Reid under the bus because it targeted their only chance at the White House. Absolute hypocrites. It's a whole racket, friends. It's a racket of the abusers abusing social issues in order to get elected and then perpetuating them forward and doing absolutely nothing about what they campaigned on in the first place. If you vote for Democrats, if you support Democrats, you are supporting the exact thing that you're probably advocating against. The only issue is most people just aren't aware of it. Most people aren't aware of Joe Biden's racially insensitive past. Most people aren't aware of the allegations of corruption. They just voted for the man because the whole system is controlled by the powers that be that told you he was some sort of deity who worked under Obama and had such a stellar track record pushing for civil rights and racial equality when the man was literally a segregationist for the majority of his political career. Talk about a farce. They claim Donald Trump is anti-LGBT when the reality is this.
Do you support gay marriage?
No. Barack Obama nor I support redefining from a civil side what constitutes marriage. We do not support that.
I'm seeing a lot of people.
Women-wise?
Women-wise, yeah. I'm into women more than men. I mean, you know, I'm all for guys that like men, but it's just not my thing.
Right. You really
I
like
never
women.
really understood that.
What? Guys that like guys?
Well, I think it's terrific if they're really into it, but, you know.
And we can go on and on and on covering the contrast because it's endless and pretty much spans across every aspect of personality. And speaking of personality, Andrew Cuomo and Joe Biden, who seem to have a lot in common, they seem to be two peas in a pod. Don't you find it a little bit interesting that after this story comes out, there's also this story? AP source, Cuomo among contenders for Attorney General pick. Andrew Cuomo, the Grim Reaper of New York for Attorney General. I mean, is the man even qualified? Does the man have any experience in law enforcement whatsoever? Is the man even a lawyer? I mean, he probably is. Considering how much of a snake he is, he can't possibly be anything else but a lawyer. But geez, talk about unqualified. Talk about failing up. So this year alone, Andrew Cuomo had possibly the worst response to the COVID pandemic. Possibly. He himself and his policy decision is responsible for vast loss of life. Him and Bill de Blasio together have absolutely decimated African-American communities and small businesses with their draconian lockdown measures. They've caused the mass exodus of the tax base and are essentially running without fuel, without any money in the tax coffers. And after all of this, Andrew Cuomo gives himself a $25,000 raise for his next year in office, wins an Emmy, gets nominated for Person of the Year, and now is a top contender for Attorney General under Joe Biden. Wow. Talk about Democrats not believing in a meritocracy whatsoever. Absolute lunacy. Democrats constantly talking about unqualified white males getting in positions of power which they do not deserve. You know, maybe they had a point, but it seems as though that once again only happens within Democrat circles. I mean, geez, folks, it doesn't get any worse than this. But that's also what I got for you guys on this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. Now I gotta get back to work because there's a whole load of hypocrisy that must be exposed on a daily basis. So I'm gonna get to that. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.